Hey, congratulations! You've got yourself a new TinyWATCH P10 revision. That's what it looks like when you take it out of the bag. Just be careful that the screen is not stuck on yet, so it can come out like this, which is fine. It won't fall off because it's attached to the PCB, which is screwed into the case. So we're going to go through how to disassemble this so you can attach a battery, and then how to reassemble it again. So, 2 screws at the back. I'm just using a flathead screwdriver, but you can use that or Phillips. Bit hard to see what I'm doing when I'm recording, but unscrew those. There's not a lot to unscrew them. Okay, till they're loose. So till you can kind of lift the back here. Now, the back won't just come off because it's slid in to a side clip. So you need to slide it towards you. If the screws are facing you, like closer to you, you need to slide it off and then up. And so when you turn it over, let's take the screws out, leave them on the desk, and you'll see that there's a clip here that slides into a bracket on the side which holds it together on the opposite side. So we have the TinyWATCH that's inside. Move this out the way. Right now the haptic motor is just hanging around. It can actually be stuck to the back here. There's this circle section and there's adhesive on the back of it here, but you don't want to do that until you've got your battery in and everything else, because then it makes it really hard to take this off. I mean, you could do it and fold it over, but you have to be careful you don't rip the wires off. They're soldered to pads in there. So there are 3 buttons. There's a button here, black buttons here, and a blue button, which is your power button. Okay, all you need to do now is just lift this off. Just hold the PCB and this frame will come off. You've got to be careful of the buttons. The buttons may fall out, they may not, depends on their friction fit. I've been tweaking the case design a little bit as I've been going and getting the tolerances tighter and tighter, so these buttons don't fall out too easily. Some of the earlier cases that look identical to this, they might be looser. But anyway, you can leave that alone right now. We'll just move that to the side. And what we have here is the PCB and the screen. Now, be careful with the ribbon cable. It is flexed on purpose and bent like this on purpose, the way it sits inside. But just be gentle when you're pulling it out. If you want to, you can disconnect, and I highly recommend it when you're doing the battery. Lift the lever up on the connector and slide the screen off. Okay, I'll just put that over there for now. So, we have the haptics. These are the 2 pads for the battery. Positive is closer to me right now, and negative. There's a plus symbol next to this one. There's no connector for the battery because a connector is just way too big. This is a JST PH connector. By the time you put a JST connector on, there's no room for a battery inside. And even with a smaller connector, like the Pico Blade connector, it's still too big, right? You lose too much height for a battery. It takes twice as much space on the board. So a battery, if it comes with a connector on it, just cut the wires off, and you're going to solder the red to the plus and the black to the negative, or just the one that isn't indicated. Now, the watch itself comes with double-sided 3M tape on the screen. I don't ship them connected. I don't stick them together because if the PCB is stuck to the screen like this and you try to solder the battery on, you can actually damage the backlight or even the crystal display inside and damage the screen. So you don't want to apply any heat to the screen through a soldering iron. That's why they don't come attached, but you'll solder the battery on with the wires this way, not hanging over, preferably. So here's an example battery. I'm not going to cut the wires off that one right now, but you'd do the red and the black and you'd solder it kind of like this, right? I have a picture on the product page of a battery soldered on inside the case. So once you've soldered the battery on, that's all you need to do. Then you want to stick the PCB to the screen. So you first want to put the connector back in. That'll just slide back in. It doesn't go all the way because it's a short connector. Just make sure it's straight and then pull the lever down and lock it down just with a nail. That's now locked in place. And then when you want to stick it down, pull obviously the back of the tape off. And now you need to be careful here. It's very strong tape. Once you've got it down, you won't get it back up again. So the actual PCB itself should line up almost perfectly with the silver on the back of the screen. Okay, you don't want to get it down and then try to have to shift it. There's a lot of tape here and it's really, really sticky. So you need to make sure that when you're going down, what I like to do is just hold the four corners, right, of the PCB, and I can touch and feel the corners of the screen, the metal, and as I'm doing that, I just guide it down until it's on and stuck. And then once that's stuck down, the screen will never come apart from the case anymore. So let's assume this is back in. We go and get, I knocked this before. If the buttons fall out, that's fine. What you want to do is get these two in first. Now, might be a bit hard to see on the video, but the button here, it's a rectangle, not a square. There's a longer and a shorter side, obviously a rectangle. You want to put the button into the holes with the long, the vertical, up and down, not sideways. Okay? So, I'll take these ones out. So even with the blue one, it's a rectangle, so you want to go vertical. Okay, it's easy to put these two in first. He says, as he can't get it in. 1 and 2. And you'll know if they're in vertically or not because they should move really easily. Okay, if it doesn't move easily, then see that one didn't go in vertically. That doesn't move properly. Okay, let's try it again. Vertical this time. Okay, let's see that moves nice and easily. Vertical. Vertical, nice and easy. And then you can either put this one in now or you can put it in when you have it together. I'm going to try putting it in now because these friction wires are feeling okay. Moves nice and easy. Grab this, make sure the cable is flipped over like this, right? You want to start with the USB end, or you want to start where the cable is. Just careful that button doesn't fall out there. And then get the USB connector in. Make sure that the haptic wires aren't in the way. Make sure your battery wires aren't in the way. And then what you want to do is make sure that this button is pushed all the way before you try to take it over. So what I will do is just grab my screwdriver and make sure that it doesn't push on the actuator of the button, but it goes to the side of it, right? So that is down, and what you want to do before you do anything else, make sure the buttons are working, right? Because if they're not springy, then there's a problem. It's not sitting right. Okay? At this point in time, you can unstick the haptics and try to stick it to the back. Okay, that will kind of sit like this, just like that. You can stick it to the back if you want to. I'm not going to do this obviously for this. And then once it's all together, put your battery in, get everything nice and neat inside. Okay, take the back with the, again, the screw holes facing towards you, and you want to put it on offset and slide it in, and you'll feel when it's slid in. Okay, it's not a tight press fit necessarily, but you should be able to feel on this side here that it's in. All right, and then just grab the screws, put them back in the hole. Okay, and then gently, until make sure it catches, right? Because it might jiggle around. Once you feel it catching, you need to tighten these really gently. Okay, they're surface mount nuts attached to the PCB. You can rip them off if you're too aggressive. I'm being very soft with my turning, right? And as soon as it becomes, you know, quite tight where you think to yourself, okay, that's enough, stop. That's all you need to do. And then it's back together. Now, obviously, I didn't stick it, so the screen is still going to be loose. With my P7 and P4 revisions, the actual screen itself was friction fit into the front of the watch to prevent it from falling out. It wasn't stuck together to the PCB. The problem with that was that if you wanted to remove the screen anytime, there was a chance that when you pull the screen out, you could rip the LCD back lighting off, this silver thing here, because it got wedged in between. So I've removed that friction fit on this design watch, and it uses a double-sided tape plus the PCB being locked in via the screws. And that's it. And hopefully, if I grab my USB cable and plug it in and turn it on, I haven't broken it. Beep, beep, beep. That's the buzzer going. And yep, we're working. So until the haptics is stuck to the back, it's kind of sitting in there loose, right? So when the motor goes, you can hear it, you can feel it a bit, but you don't get maximum vibration because it's not vibrating the case. It's just floating around inside, vibrating. So that's fine. Once you've stuck it down to the back of the case, when you're wearing it on your arm, you will feel it vibrating very strongly. It's quite nice. And that's it. Obviously, you can rip the screen cover off when you're ready and enjoy using your TinyWatch.